VW Thinking Law Podcast.
Yes.
Episode 4.
Yes.
Hi, Carlos.
Hi, Carlos. To be so good now.
Hi, B.
Yes.
This week I'm not going to ask you how your week was. Because, who liftile boycott. Boycott.
Oh, yeah. You mean the fact that we attended the legal opening?
You guys attended the legal opening this year.
Yes. Look, we attend the legal opening every year. It's just last year where there had to be a boycott because we could see from our perspective, things were not going the way that we've always understood them to be going.
Yeah.
Yes, from the legal perspective,
okay.
And the listeners, the ambience, rain and all that, come rain or shine.
We go in.
Exactly. Can you believe this is like episode 4?
No, it's crazy. It's so quick.
It is.
But yeah, anyway.
So this year we attended the legal opening and lawyers showed up in numbers.
They did.
Right? They did. And, we always get the temperature of how the administration intends to deal with the judiciary from the speeches that are given by the Attorney General especially, and then the Chief Justice, how he intends to oversee the administration of justice as well. So, yeah.
Okay, let me take you back a bit. Last year when you guys boycotted, what are you guys as who?
The Law Society of Botswana.
Okay, so you guys, what exactly were you guys unhappy about? What's the problem? Was it other lawyers, or was it the judges? Was it the courts? Was it the government getting involved with the judicial system? What was the problem?
There were so many issues, right? We consider our profession to be a very respectable profession, right?
Rightfully so. Yeah.
I don't know, there are people that might think, the lawyers are respectable, you know what I mean? But we always consider our profession to be very respectable. It's okay or understandable for people to complain or judgment days and stuff. But and things of that nature, it now takes us out of our profession. They shouldn't even be there, right? We understand in the workplace people have their own issues, but you don't air your dirty laundry. So it is the airing of the dirty laundry that was one of the things that we are unhappy about. Secondly, and I'm not saying this in any representative capacity of the Law Society. I'm just as a member who participated in the boycott.
Carlos.
Yeah. And the other thing was Exactly. And the under-resourcing administration of justice. Right? So you would have to go to court. Maybe a court ordered like that, things of that nature. The judiciary was so heavily under-resourced, and it didn't look like there were any any plans in place to capacitate the judiciary. And it being such a third arm of government, if you keep strangling it of resources, how do you expect people to do their job? How do you facilitate access to justice and the enforcement of the rule of law when people are not capacitated? So we could tell how things were going downhill and they were going downhill fast.
Yeah, because from a few of my lawyer friends, the issue they always spoke about was how it took forever to get your case to be heard.
Yes.
You know, the judge in DC now for, and just us on the outside, we saw the newspaper articles, we saw the talk, you know, and one thing about your profession is that you guys are extremely professional about it as well. You know, you guys don't go out and speak. A lot of you guys just aren't happy with the way things were.
Yes.
And I think what I respected also, I caught some clips of the Legal Week opening. That's what was it called?
Legal opening.
Legal opening, yeah. I got some clips, and I think it was the president of the Law Society of Botswana.
Chairperson of the council. Yes.
Murasta.
Yes.
And when he spoke about the elephant in the room,
yes,
and he went in, you know, and I was like, oh wow, like this man does not care for this is a new president. The president is also an attorney himself. He's not worried for there's a
new... he's an advocate.
Oh, advocate.
Yes. Okay. He's an advocate. He's not an attorney. Yes.
Okay. You'll break down the difference one day.
You mean the president? Yes.
Yes. So so the way he was, and I was like, this. If you're gonna stand up for your profession, this is how you do it.
Yes.
You know, you don't shy away from it. This is the platform. This is and you know, I understand we're all jubilated by the new government. We're all, you know, we all want to say the right things. So I thought that was really, that caught me. I was like, man, like these guys don't play around with their professions.
Yes.
You know, that's why you guys don't play around with it.
No, it's not even just that, right? I think everyone who's in a certain profession always wants to protect it. Because if people lose faith in the profession, they lose faith in us.
100%.
So when in one position I could say, you know, the law says this, and I could back it up. Sometimes people be like, So even if I say something that makes sense, because people then lose faith in us.
100%. Yeah. Nah, we appreciate you. We appreciate the Law Society for what you guys did last year, standing up last year, and for letting guys know this year as well. For okay, guys, we see you, but let's get serious, because for us, you know, we're talking about literally the difference between somebody might lose their lives and continue to live. You know, the difference between somebody getting justice because, you know, whatever, GBV cases or whatever. So for us, it's life and death. So we appreciate you guys taking the effort and making sure.
Yes.
There's a new Chief Justice.
Yes, Chief Justice Ketlo.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what does the Chief Justice do, and why is there a new one?
Okay, so before we actually get there, I do like the fact that, you know, there are certain remarks that the president had made sometime back aimed at the judiciary. And the Law Society's, the chairperson of the Council of the Law Society did say, you know, we understand the president might say a few things about the judiciary, but limit it to the professional aspect of it. Don't take it now into the personal, right? In order for us to also be able to say, we understand you're the first citizen, but remember, as much as the judiciary cannot say to you, hey, you know, Luana, you have to have that decorum when you address the judiciary.
Exactly.
And not even just don't instruct it, don't throw it into disrepute. That's how we say it. You might
doesn't call it out.
No. As in, there's a difference between saying, you know, the judgments that are coming from the courts are not being delivered on time and things of that nature, and saying, you know, you're not exercising your powers judiciously. I'm not saying that's what the president said,
I get you.
But it's what you say and how you say it that makes the difference.
I get you.
Yeah. So, Harusnya like an
Chief Justice. Me I know on tensali hore mo ka hore ke letso gore ke batla go botsa ka gore go ntse yang hela in the legal space, you know, when you guys are having your conversations with Koning, you know, since October, when advocate it's an president day, you know, and I didn't even know this, but I saw our first lady was robed yesterday as well, so she's a legal practitioner as well. Yes. I had no idea. So so how what's the energy like? What's the vibe like? You know, you guys attending yesterday and getting to see all of that, and what's the energy like in your field? Or you guys are being lawyers about it, where it's just like
you know what? I feel, and this is not even because we're lawyers, I feel there was a sense of hope when the new administration came in. And I still feel that sense of hope from the general public. Yes, there are some things that they're unhappy with and they go on social media and talk about it, but they are still giving the new administration the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
New administration. If they get the second term, that's when
guys, exactly. So that's still new.
So there is still that sense of hope. You can tell they're growing pains, right?
100%.
And I fully understand that, having gotten into a situation where Kenegitala systems in place, and I had to go into that organization with these systems in place, wanting to change some things, but not being able to change them because of so many interlinked things. We were actually having a conversation with someone earlier in the day, when they're like, no, but you know, how do you have a new government and keep the same civil servants and you expect something different? And I said to them, you know what? The thing you have to have in mind is that, number one, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
100%.
And number two, you have to look at law. You can't just come in and say, because I get at the department so and so, right? There has to be some due process there. And Hailo Horomuntu was hired about 30 years ago, right? The life that we see technologically is very different from what it was 30 years ago, right? So if you hired a person, and they happen to graduate to the laptop, or now you want them, you've just introduced laptops, now you want them to go to AI and things like that, and because they can't wrap their heads around that, then you want to fire them, right? You're not even saying I'll capacitate you, because the capacitation issue comes with money.
100%.
Or if I'm going to capacitate you, where am I going to get the money? So what then do you do? Do you just fire that person because they are not advanced in the AI space and all those things? So there's so many things that have to be weighed and looked at before you decide, civil service, okay, you know what I mean?
Now, I believe people who've been saying that are people who've never been in a position of firing. You've never been in a situation where maybe you're coming, as you say, you're coming into a new company, and this is the staff that you're given, and you have to make it work with them as much as possible until that's the thing. When you come in, when you come into a new company, that's what you say. You say, guys, now I'm here. Okay, things are not going well, but I'm here. It's up to you to prove yourself, or do you want to stick around? So you have another year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever period of time for you to prove yourself, or should you stick around, or must I get rid of you?
Exactly.
So, you know, not everyone who's in civil service was a part of the previous political party or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? There's people who literally just come to work to do their jobs, and they're not doing well in their jobs because of either the system or the resources or whatever the case is. So we can't now be saying, no, let's fire people. Fire people. Where are we going to get? Here's the other thing. Where are we going to get this new talent that are just going to come in and they know exactly what they're doing, and they're just going to, everything is going to be great.
Another thing that a lot of people don't consider, as much as they were disgruntled by the previous administration, some civil servants were similarly disgruntled.
100%. 100%.
And were not able to give 1,001%.
100%. Okay, let's go back to Chief Justice because we are talking about, we're having a chat.
Yeah, but then even in our chat, we threw in a bit of law.
100%.
So, you know,
100%.
yeah.
Somebody actually suggested to me last week, I registered the employment law one that we did.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's like, nah, I don't mean, hala coverable sick leave, you go register for the seminar, register for the seminar. But he said something interesting. He was like, you know, the conversation is so dope that I wish you guys would literally just start off with just chatting about just current
random things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's the thing. The beautiful thing about this thing, it's ours.
You know,
and we can literally, it can be something completely different in 2 years.
Hey.
It doesn't matter.
You know, we talk to whoever is listening or ambience, in the background.
Chief Justice, because he said some really interesting things.
Yes.
You know, I don't want us to get delve into the details of what he spoke about. And ritual killings and etc. I just want to understand why is it a big deal that we have a new Chief Justice?
So the Chief Justice is the head of the judiciary, right?
Okay.
In the sense that he is the first among equals. So at the High Court, all judges are equal, right? It's just that the Chief Justice has an extra level to what he does because he does the administrative work as well, right? So if a Chief Justice gives a judgment, that judgment won't necessarily have more weight than if a judgment came from a different judge of the High Court, right? Because of the equal aspect. But because he's the administrative head, there is some sort of behavior that is wanting judging, then people can report to him. Right, to say, kana judge yo, and he can also take it upon himself to deal with that issue or escalate it to the judicial service. Yes.
Okay, cool stuff. And no, let me not. Let's move on to. I was going to ask you, how do you feel about him? But that's ridiculous to even ask you that. So today's conversation, our topic for today is something that
people might misconstrue the silence and the laughter.
No, I don't want
exactly. Right?
I don't want to now put you in a situation where
we haven't, because you know the thing about it is that you can be a good, like you can be good at something, right? Like as a lawyer. I can be a good lawyer, right? But that doesn't mean I'm a good administrator. And that's how sometimes you find very good lawyers have difficulty running law firms because they're good lawyers but not good administrators. So with him, I can't say he will be a good Chief Justice or not because I haven't seen him in that administrative light. Maybe ask me after about a year and a half. Judiciary is flying.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, but as a judge, as a judge, his experience as a judge, I mean, he's one of the judges that are known in Botswana to be. He was a rocky.
Look, the judgments of his that I've read, I've enjoyed. I mean, one of the judgments I've previously talked about, Yaha Kimatsika. The one about Veronica, I think Veronica Matsika, the gentleman, the politician that was running for office as an MP, and then he was accused of taking the life of a child.
Oh, Matsika. Yes.
So I actually read his judgment when it came to habeas corpus, which has produced the body, where Dr. Matsika had been taken by allegedly the DIS, and no one seemed to have access to him. So his wife went to the court under this habeas corpus, which has produced the body. and effectively the judgment was sound. It made a lot of sense.
Okay.
And yeah, so I've found his judgments to be enjoyable. I don't know of any other judgments that are there because, you know, as lawyers, we could look at something. Some lawyers would be like, oh my goodness, that's fantastic. And others are like, oh my goodness,
That's
what
shocking.
is this? Yeah, but in my opinion, I've enjoyed some of the judgments he's written.
Okay. Yeah, all the best, Mr. New CJ, in the administrative part of things there. We wish you all the best. Because yeah, it's been the legal system in Botswana. It's been a bit tricky. Yeah, you know. I don't know much, but I could tell. There's just a bit of weirdness that's going on. Even if a lot of it wasn't true, it was just like, okay, the little bit of smoke they're talking about. Even if there's just a little bit of smoke, a little bit of fire that's coming, that's making that smoke, it's a problem.
And
it's
you
a
see,
problem.
it's that shadow thing
Yeah,
that we don't want.
unknown,
You
yeah.
never want people to have that view of the judiciary. Yes, people can be like, "Ooh, the judiciary," right?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
as a thing of respect, not judiciary alone. You know.
And how we're unhappy, maybe be unhappy with one case.
Yes,
you know, out of the 50 cases in a year, be like, this one. Not where now case after case, we're just newspaper article after newspaper article.
Yeah. But we also need to make a distinction between sensationalized cases and everyday cases, right? Because you find we would have 100 cases.
Yeah.
And these cases would be dealt with, and then there'll be one case that will get blown out of proportion and sensationalized. And sometimes even our journalists, they shouldn't come for me, but it's my truth. I could be wrong. I find that in their legal reporting, you can tell this thing was not written by someone who is knowledgeable in the law.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it could be a point of law that was argued.
Yeah.
And people are not successful. So has been freed, and then you read the judgment, you're like, okay, this has nothing to do with what this article is saying.
100%.
You know, so
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I remember the time where there was a bunch of butterflies flying in the city. Like, I would read an article and say, oh my guy, what I love social media, I love bits and pieces of more newspaper. Anyway, everything. Let's go.
We know that the budget speech is coming up. We're recording this on Thursday, the 6th. Is it the 6th today?
Yeah, today is the 6th, yes. So
budget the budget speech is coming on Monday when the episode drops.
Yeah.
And I really hope, because before the Justice was Ministry of Defense, Security and Justice, right? Even in that one ministry, you didn't get anything in the budget speech that necessarily was judiciary specific. So even after the separation, you still didn't get anything that was judiciary specific. So I hope this time they do talk about the budgeting, the judiciary, because it's been difficult, Carlos. It's really been difficult from a resource capacitation, judiciary. Right now, it's called CRMS, I think, the system that they use to capture records. It's court. So when you file court documents, they scan you onto this system so that if you go to any high court in Botswana, they'll have access to the thing. It hasn't worked for the past 4 or 5 years.
Goodness.
Right? Which means that they need to actually look for physical files. Right? So I need to send someone to the High Court for them to look for the physical file. Which is a problem.
And we're not talking about things you can just bear on a bus in the
right?
Now it's a cost to you to deliver.
Exactly. But to even get someone here enough to be able to look at it, such and such, right? And then the other thing is, if there's a fire. Because there was a fire, I think last year or the year before, at the magistrate's court, somewhere there. And some files got burned, right? Then how do you then recreate those files?
Oh my goodness. Panola, are you saying hala o kana le mollo mo ya kana gona le mollo ya the file is in the molly because they're not captured into the system. Yes. It was literally just paper.
Yes.
That's all there was.
Yes.
So when the paper burns,
yes.
now criminals, evidence, and all of that can disappear.
Yes. So many things can disappear, Carlos. And sometimes they will rely on, hopefully there was an attorney, right? To say, nailing your court papers and things of that nature, recreate a file.
That's hectic.
It is.
That is hectic.
Yeah. So, things like that. And that's why I think every year, for the past 2-3 years, I've always said, I want to see something catered for the judiciary in the budget speech, right? Because we see some of these things, and I'm not saying we as the legal fraternity or the administration of justice should get favoritism because the first citizen is a practitioner.
Yeah.
But we're hoping, because he's been a practitioner, he has seen the needs of the judiciary and the administration of justice enough to, say,
come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that why now my mind is racing all over the place? Is that why it seems like a lot of lawyers, when they're done with school, they want to go into private practice? Because I can imagine if there are no resources, something as simple as a paper. What, you are shocking me right now? What, you have to actually carry your own little reel of A4 papers in your boot, so that when you get there, you can.
Last year it was bad.
That's crazy.
It was really. And imagine, then we're talking about one of the highest courts in the land.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where so many people's matters get determined, so many important things.
Yeah. So how has the DPP been in terms of, acquiring talent and keeping talent? Because if I'm going to spend, how long do you guys spend in school? 5-6 years? And now I'm done and it's time for me to go out and work and make a living for myself.
The court reporter.
It might persuade you to go away from the situation and say, I'm not going to be a prosecutor, I'm not going to work for government, I'm just going to go out and be in the private sector. How has the lack of resources affected the DPP being able to get talent and to retain the talent?
Well, the Attorney General actually touched on this in her speech at the legal opening, right? She was talking about capacitation, and she did touch on capacitation in respect of the Attorney General's chambers, and I think we can extend it even to the Directorate of Public Prosecutions.
Yeah.
And to government generally, right? Because you find that a lot of people who work at ministries and so on will first get recruited through the Attorney General's chambers and then maybe get seconded to different ministries, so that the ministries have somebody who's legally minded to be able to advise. So you find for some instances, yes, they are under-resourced, therefore under-capacitated, right? And it's not just AGs, DPP, even with legal aid. You might find for legal aid has so many cases, but they actually, boots on the ground, they don't have enough boots on the ground.
That's dangerous. We can't have that. No, this is me saying it, not you. This is fully me saying that's dangerous, because not everybody can afford an attorney.
Yes.
And secondly, not everybody. We need if say for example, if there's a corruption case, for example, the person who's corrupt or the accused in a corruption case can afford lawyers. Super fire lawyers like Bonolo lawyer.
Bonolo is super fire history.
So now it's a problem when we get to court now and Bonolo is going against someone who's under-resourced, someone who's not motivated to do their job, someone who doesn't even want to be here, bro. That's dangerous.
It is actually quite sad, and I wish sometimes people would go to court to see what sometimes happens with criminal matters, where you find one person from the DPP is there, and there are about 10 matters that are criminal law, right? And then out of those 10 matters, the matter two, and then the other 8 gets other prosecutors. We tell the postpone because the prosecutor is not there, or they didn't show up. So I think job satisfaction also plays a role, and that's why sometimes we tell also now opposition and things. So there's so many dynamics that go into it in relation to the administration of justice. Because when I talk about administration of justice, I'm not just talking about the courts, right? I'm talking about your DPPs, your AG, even lawyers, right? Because the Law Society has been for a very long time asking government for subvention. To say to government, because there's so many laws that have been passed that put such weight on the Law Society, like they are supposed to assist with this anti-money laundering stuff. So in terms of the Financial Intelligence Act, there are certain duties that the Law Society has to execute on top of making sure lawyers have to do what lawyers have to do, right? And then it came to the point where now in the regulation as well, or yes, as a private practitioner, I fall under the Law Society. The Law Society has to discipline me, but everyone that forms part of the disciplinary committee has to volunteer their time, so they're not given anything, right? And then if you get like 2,000 complaints a year, how do you expect them to balance their work as well as to deal with the complaints, say, on a voluntary basis? There's so many things that we can talk about that impact like just the legal space. Can we put it like that? Yeah. So and that's one of the things that are so important about the legal opening, right? You get to hear the perspective, the administration of justice from the judiciary standpoint, being through the CJ. Then you get to hear it from the standpoint, Buso, through the HD, DPP, and so on. And then you get to hear from it from the perspective, Rona, as legal practitioners through the Law Society of Botswana. And that's why our boycott last year was so important, because it was very, very loud.
Yeah,
yes.
Because that's the other thing as well, because last year, let me be honest, I honestly felt it this year.
Yes.
It's only this year because I get it now with social media, and I was making fun of how you guys dressed last week. So when I saw the pictures, I didn't even know the opening was happening this week, but I just saw the pictures and I was like, oh, it's been a while since I've seen this. I was like, oh, that's because last year, never see you.
Yes.
So
I think a BDF day, yeah, the lawyer.
Yeah, so I felt it this year, and now that we're having these conversations, now that I'm hearing, that I'm getting proper context, it makes sense now, because I'll be honest, not to me as an outsider, last year I was just like, I remember we boycott that. And then what's that going to do? And it seemed like after the boycott, nothing changed and nothing drastic happened. We just continued to move along. You know what I mean? But now, when you say it the way you're saying it now, I can see, well, okay. So the Law Society does actually make an impact. And the boycott last year, I mean, it would have been, yeah, if you guys had decided to boycott again this year, it would have been an absolute problem. Like,
Yes.
it would have been proper visit.
Especially with the first citizen being a practitioner.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
He's one of y'all, you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, it's. So I guess we can just wait and see and hope.
Yeah, I mean that's all we can do.
What's okay? I don't know if you can go into specifics, and I don't think I want to go into specifics. But what's best case scenario? Just the basic best case scenario from the VP and Minister of Finance's participation this Monday.
Okay, I can only talk about it from my perspective, right, as a legal practitioner. And for me, I just want to see the Ministry of Justice there, right? Well, because Ghana, otherwise it then falls into any other ministries and departments, by share residue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at least I just the silly thing. Okay, no, just the say by Hile Bokana. Maybe they might talk about it here and there, but not into the nitty gritties. But it's 100 pulo to justice. Right now, it's justice any other ministries. And this is an arm of government. Like,
that's so wild how some of us don't even think about these things. Like, so wait, so the new government has put justice on its own.
No, justice was separated during the old administration. So it used to be the Ministry of Defense, Justice and Security,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And yes. No, even after him. And it was Karuso Musi, I think. Yes, when he was the Minister of Defense, Justice and Security. And then it got separated, right, into Defense and Security and Justice on its own. Who was, I think the Minister of Justice was Shamuguni.
Okay.
Yes, I can't, who is the Minister of Justice now? Ramautan, yes, it's Mr. Ramautan, yes. So when the Ministry of Justice was created under the old administration, I think the minister was Minister Shamuguni, and now it's Minister Ramautan. I remember when I was young, I used to think to myself, how do these people know who the ministers and MPs are? Now here I am, I'm like, yes, it's that person. Oh my goodness. So it was created, this specific ministry was created in the old administration. And I think the reason why it was created is because they maybe especially in light of the complaints that were there, right? Or okay, it's under resourced, it's all of these things. High court, right? Toilet paper, like, anyway, yeah, so I'm hoping for it because it's a standalone ministry. It won't fall into the residue, right? It will have its own, because it's a firm arm of government.
I mean, literally, now that I think about it, like, you guys should be getting the same sort of preferential treatment as,
like OP.
OP.
Yes.
Before you work the allowance.
And when I say OP, I don't necessarily mean the office of the president. I mean OP is the embodiment of the executive, right? So as an arm of government, the same gravitas should also be given to the judiciary, because these three arms of government, they give each other checks and balances. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We'll see.
This episode, Rona, has been to talk about, well, at least we talked about the legal opening.
Indeed.
Yes.
The funny thing is, before we actually decided what we were talking about today, I was thinking, well, maybe let's just talk about the legal opening. I was just like, maybe there's not enough there. But clearly, because I'm here.
Yeah, we are.
I'm shocked. It's been an hour. I was talking. No, man. Let's hope. Let's hope. And And again, because of the sort of profession that you guys have, you can't openly and publicly and call out the government, and you can't do it. Like,
Yes.
it can't be uncouth like
It,
that.
it can, I can narrow.
Because of the work that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I actually, maybe like Bona as lawyers, right? I feel sorry for judges.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
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 Even if they are unhappy about something and so on, you might see it in the judgment that's abone.
Yeah.
But they cannot outright and say, you know what, to hell with you, Mr. So and so, Mrs. So and so, we're tired of your rubbish. Hey.
I can't even imagine the workload. I remember my cousin, he was a judge at the industrial court in his beautiful soul. He passed away last year. And in his house, obviously there's the office, right?
Yeah.
Which no one is allowed inside. Even when he was around, we knew the office. First of all, the office was always locked.
Yes.
Okay. So if he's not around, I remember one time I went over to his house because my wife had forgotten a bowl. We really get together in his house. My wife had forgotten a bowl there, so I passed by. She's like, "Yo, I know you're in the area. Pass by Ramahata's house and please grab the bowl there." So I went to my cousin's house.
Yes.
I get to the gate as the security guard there. Obviously, asking this time. Okay, fine. She opens the gate and I explain her, okay, mom. She asks for my ID. Batum.
This is my cousin.
I was here last week.
Day, is this your cousin?
So I walk in and his son is in the house, right? So as we're walking towards the house, I say the son's name out loud just to show the security lady.
Yes, I know these people.
Yeah, I'm not here to steal. I don't know what you think I'm going to steal. Because in my mind, I'm not even thinking about this office or anything like that. And just before we walk inside the house, she holds the door and says, "Oh, where am I happy?" And I stand by the door, and then she goes inside the house, and then she comes outside, and she's like, "Okay, Shabi, come in." So I say to my nephew, I'm like, "Yo, what was she doing in the house? Now you know who busy or something." He's like, "No, I was really coming outside." She has to check whether the office is locked before you come in the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yo, that's wild." So one time when he was around and he was in his office, I walk into this thing. No, when I tell you, God, there was just so much, dog. There were so many files, so many books, so many. No, when I have on now, when this pile, this is what I have to deal with just this month alone. I was like, I hope you guys are getting paid millions. So when people may look at my cousin, but he's much older, so I'm not gonna ask him about it. So I'm like, yeah, I guess the benefits is security guard, maybe you guys get driven to work and because this doesn't make sense. This is crazy amount of work.
Yeah.
That's what judges have to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And imagine, Jorge, he was working in a specialized court.
Yes.
Being the industrial court, right? Which means the matters were limited to matters in the employment law arena, right? Yeah. Now imagine high court judges, magistrates, or it's not even limited to any arena of the law. You get criminal, every area of civil law and all that. Top.
It's fine. This is not normal. It's fine. That's what you can tell us something. It's too much. It's too much.
Maybe your nephew would came out and looked at you and was like, "Ah, no,
she told me a shot. Oh man. So what are we doing? Because
Carlos.
Yeah, it's 45 minutes of talking. So I don't know if you want to leave it here. And then next week, that's when we get into what was supposed to be today's topic.
Yes.
We're supposed to talk about landlord and tenant law.
Yes, we were supposed to talk about landlord and tenant law.
Yeah.
The landlord, you know, those type of things. And maybe this is a blurb for people to listen next week, you know?
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Because this one was going to be super interesting to me because recently a friend of mine was telling me how Ukile a long time ago, now and they sent the sheriff over to his house, and the sheriff took his stuff.
Yes.
And you know, he was just depressed and going through it, and just eventually just said, okay, you know what, let me just leave them with the stuff. And he was like, if you like I doing it in night, you know, it's fine, they can keep the stuff. I was like, I don't think that was me. Did you sign anything? Did you be like, no, you showed up and said, all of us, mama, all of us, mama, because the house that he lived in was a property that's owned by a big developer, you know, so all of us, mama, so I used to work like a company, you know, and I was like, I don't know much about the law, but I don't think that was legal. And because we've had this conversation before, we've spoken about this stuff before on the radio. I remember you did say, "Horekana said this in there." Let me go tell out the skeleton. Yes. Until we get to a point where going to do the or anything.
Exactly,
you know, so,
exactly.
So definitely there is a battle.
And maybe one of the things that we can talk about that we've never actually touched on are the rights and duties of deputy sheriffs. Right? And I say this because I sometimes get complaints from people that deputy sheriff right? And then when you have a discussion with them, a deputy sheriff who was executing their mandate, it's just that because people don't understand the power of a deputy sheriff, they feel
yeah.
But then you do find situations where deputy sheriffs are, you know, it's the wild west out there, right? So maybe that's a discussion we can throw in, the powers, rights, and duties of deputy sheriffs.
Yeah, and I guess in closing we can wrap it up by how we are working on a lot of regulations involved. It reminds me of religion. You know, religion, and it was this beautiful thing that was supposed to help people live morally and get people and whatever. And human beings, they came along and did what they do. I find, you know, people who say the lawyer are really. It's sort of something similar to that, where it's just like, and what Mola says. Well, I was actually on everybody's side. It's somewhat bad. It somewhat makes sense for everybody. It's supposed to make sense for everybody. And then you'll find there's people, human beings, who are going to come in and human being.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And I love the fact that you say it's supposed to. Right?
Yes,
because and I always explain this to people, right? That the law is an odd creature in that the law is the law. Sometimes the law is not fair, sometimes the law is not just. It is simply the law. And that's the reason why when we talk law, we don't just talk a law, we talk about fairness, justice, and the rule of law. Right? Because the law on its own, look at apartheid South Africa. It was the law. It was neither fair nor just. Right? So there has to always be that balance. Hey, but lawyers, sometimes our reputation is earned, hey? We sometimes deserve the reputation that we have. Allegedly, we're awesome people.
Human beings.
And maybe we should have, if we're going to talk sheriffs, maybe we should talk lawyers as well. 100%. Their powers, rights, and duties.
Let's go in, because you know what I know about you, my friend, is the amazing lawyer that you are.
Lawyers have egos. So the more you gas up this ego, you know, I am the law.
When they have to go against you in court.
Oh my goodness. What's come police
But okay, I think well, that's the beautiful thing, man. It's a podcast, you
Yeah.
didn't sign any contracts with the next parties. It's us. No one's gonna fire us. So we're gonna talk about these things. We have plenty of time to talk about these things, and we definitely are gonna talk about them. I know eventually people are gonna be also raising their own issues.
Yes.
Or hey, can I have a little like but I do a actually if you really are
Yes. Yes.
Doesn't get caught off
Yeah.
So we'll touch on all of that. I don't know how do you want to wrap it up? Do you want to wrap it up with the seminar?
Yes. So the 26th of April, 2025. From 8:30 to 12:30, we're having our employment law seminar fully online, 100 pula per attendee. We're still working on putting up the forms and putting up the flyer, so people shouldn't lose hope either. And the saving also works because August we were having the estate planning seminar.
Yes.
And I always encourage people to take advantage of these because if you come to me as a lawyer, the fees I will charge you just for that education we give you in these seminars will be far more than what we ask you to pay for the seminars. But that being said, Botswana Thinking Law, the podcast, is on Spotify, is on YouTube. So
find us there.
Yes.
Find us there. Episode 4, 5 is coming next week.
Yes.
Have a good day. Enjoy the VP speech today, Mr. VP.
I don't know, maybe now it's a new administration, but it was heartbreaking. It was terrible. It was terrible. For the past 3 months.
No, there's instances where we have to remove ourselves from the norm, because yes, the justice system is under government. Yes, when you go to a government facility or a government office, it's normal to get there, you find the toilet doesn't work. But we have to treat it differently. So the rates are how about
it's inhuman and degrading treatment. Is it even constitutional?
done the right way.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carlos. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations.
Man, it's always awesome. 1 hour we spent the whole hour talking about something that we didn't even plan to talk about.
Yeah. But it's so legal. It's so in the law arena. And like I said, I think I said it in episode 1, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, because law can be so boring. Right, I will be there researching some legal principle and going crazy and happy, and when I explain it to you, you're just there like, wow, okay, right? Exactly. But we need to make it more enjoyable for the everyday person. That Botswana Thinking Law podcast, they're like, yes, let's do law.
And this is why you find we don't even know about the challenges that lawyers face because, as I said, you guys hold your profession in high regard, so you're not going to be out here, bad mouthing it. You're not going to be out here doing.
Yeah.
But when we have these conversations, all light-hearted like this, not everyone saw. Brarastas. This is not, anyway. Yes. And I should have remembered because I saw the surname and I was like, oh, he's related to DJ Root. Well, he calls himself Neo Played It Now, who is like one of the best hip hop DJs in Botswana. Yeah, I know why. So I made the connection like that. And I don't know how I forgot his name. But then but not everyone is going to listen to his speech. You know what I mean? But when we have a conversation like this, where you have a layman on one side and you have a law genius expert on the other side, it makes it, you know.
Well, you know, if anyone at court calls me a law genius expert, it's your fault. I will say it is Carlos's fault. So let's try to learn about that. Thank you so much, Carlos. Okay, travel safe.
Thank you. But we're back again next week.
Yes.
Sure.
And your cupcakes, 20th April.
20th April.
Were in there.
And you can't forget it's 420, which with the new administration,
my birthday comes before the 20th of April.
Yes.
So there must be something that arrives at the 16th of February because water before the 20th of April.
Is the ideal. It's the ideal part. It's always looking out for you. I love it. Yeah, I'll make sure. There's something
I enjoy anything sweet, so.
Okay.
Yes.
No, say no more. Actually, I know exactly what to get you. It was my uncle's birthday 2 weeks ago, and I went and got him that thing. And till this day, he's still calling me about it. What are we?
I have a recording of you saying this, Carlos. I go sure when that thing has not arrived. No, we're friends, court is court. So it's nothing personal. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Carlos. Goodbye. Catch the Botswana Thinking Law podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and catch Botswana Thinking Law on various social media platforms, Facebook, X, TikTok, and so on, where we talk about Botswana law in English and Setswana.